Okay, you're going to make your first website with Kitura in this video, so make sure you have your server Xcode project up and running. Find the routes folder in Xcode and create a new Swift file. Call it webclientroutes.swift and make sure the target is set appropriately to the Emoji Journal server target. Import 3 frameworks at the top of your file to get started. Next, you're going to add a function to initialize your routes here. You'll use this function the exact same way you set up your client routes before. Just so you don't forget and lose track, switch over to application.swift and add this function call inside your finalize routes function. Now head back to webclientroutes.swift. First, inside your initialize function, set the default template engine for your router. This tells your router that, if someone is requesting a static web page, any HTML content rendered by the router should adhere to the stencil format. This is a good time to point out that you have a choice with other templating engines if you want to try them out on your own time. I chose Stencil out of personal preference. Underneath that line, add some middleware to make sure you are pointed at the right directory for serving up static files. This makes sure that any files you want to show up in your web page will be found at this directory. You can use this path as a relative path throughout your HTML now. Lastly, register for your route. You're about to write a function called showClient that will activate whenever a client makes a GET request to /client on your API, or in this case, load the URL in a web browser. Go ahead and add the signature for that function below your initialize function. With Stencil, you won't be able to use codable routing just yet. This is something on the to-do list of our team, and we hope that we can get this working soon. But for now, it's good to know that the old features in Kitura work just fine too. You won't have to do too much with either the request object or the next object, so don't get too worried. Next, make a basic context that you'll populate with data to pass into your HTML file. With a context like this, you'll be able to access this property by using title inside 2 brackets each in your template HTML file. You'll do this in a minute. For now, render your response with the right template file. You might be wondering, wait a minute, what is that stencil file? Go into your root directory and take a look in the views directory. You'll notice that the file is right there. When you make these yourself, you'll have to regenerate your Xcode project to make it show up there after you create it. Now, if you want, you can edit this file in Xcode, but I should point out to you that you probably know a couple of better HTML editors than Xcode. If you want to use syntax highlighting in Xcode, open your home.stencil file in Xcode, and from the top toolbar on your Mac, select Editor, Syntax Highlighting, HTML. After you do that, take a look at the HTML that is already in your home.stencil file. Notice the line in the middle with the comment that you're about to do something here. Go into this file and replace that line with your first stencil's templating syntax. Remember that the command to make the emoji picker show up on Mac is Control-Command-Spacebar. The property title you passed in from the context should be visible here. Build and run your server application. Open a web browser to go to localhost port 8080/client. If you've done everything right to this point, you should see a title bar with 2 emojis, the title of your application, and the sentence you passed through in the context from your Kitura app. Nice job! The next video will cover modifying your context to show off the journal entries that you've already added to your server. It'll involve a bit of HTML, but you'll still work in Swift updating the context to include the right data. See you there!